let's start with our cocktail. So our very talented bartender, Liam, who's opening up a new bar, Fleur, in Glasgow. Can you tell us, what are you making for us today and what do you call it?
Yeah, so today we'll be making a no alcohol twist on a gin fizz that we have aptly named High and Dry.
Oh, that sounds great, Liam. And I'm just going to remind everyone at home that William Grant has very kindly delivered to all of us a basket of ingredients. So by the miracle of podcast science, the rest of us who are at home can all try this cocktail. So show us what to do, Liam.
Yeah, perfect. So the first thing we need is a cocktail shaker of some sort for this drink. I myself have recycled a little jam jar here, nice and safe and eco-friendly too, since we are talking about wellness. What I have first, and everyone should have in front of them, is aquafaba, which is chickpea brine. So that's essentially just the water that chickpeas are left in and canned in. So I'm going to use about 20 millilitres for this particular cocktail. We have the juice of half a lemon.
Yeah.
After that, we've got a salted honey mix. So this is Manuka honey that we've used. A cup of Manuka honey, a cup of water, and some salt. Which brings me to Ethiopia Spice Citrus. So this is an ultra low alcohol spirit, 0.5% ABV, which stands for alcohol by volume. You'd like a little bit of alcohol in your low alcohol spirits. Alcohol does kind of change the way your mouth kind of contacts with flavour. It evaporates in your mouth and kind of allows like the lighter notes of like citrus and orange blossom to rise to the top and really complement the cocktail. I'm going to use 60 millilitres.
Great.
Which is roughly about 1 American shot glass, 2 fluid ounces if that's your thing.
Lovely.
And we're just going to ice this up. So I've got some ice from my fancy fridge freezer behind me. We're going to fill the jam jar about halfway to the top, allow some space for the cocktail to aerate, also give it enough ice to chill.
Fantastic.
Put our lid on top and do our thing, little shake.
Brilliant. Yay, come on, shake everyone. Want to hear that all? Well done, Tamara. Come on, Callum.
The most fun bit, isn't it?
Just going to top this up with soda.
Yeah.
Lastly, we have black pepper here. I'm sure most people have got it in their home. Just a little screw of black pepper on the top of the drink. Brings out the kind of darker spices in the Ethiopia Spice Citrus, complements the whole drink well. Et voila.
Cheers.
The High and Dry.
Fantastic, Liam. Thank you so much. Cheers, everyone, and good health. Oh, yes.
Great, Liam.
Oh, that tastes
Delicious.
wonderful. Lovely.
Refreshing.
Thank you, Liam. Very refreshing. Charlotte, you've been taking virtual classes, haven't you? And how challenging has the period been for the fitness industry, do you think?
I think there was panic at the very beginning. It suddenly went from, oh my goodness, we can't get to a gym, what do we do next? And fitness online existed before COVID, but it just had this really accelerated journey through lockdown 1, where myself included and every fitness instructor, yoga teacher that I know suddenly went online and they were doing Instagram lives or Zoom classes or you name it, they tried it. And it was a real learning curve, I think, for everybody, because it's a real challenge to teach people virtually, as you can imagine, versus teaching people in person. So it was, interesting to watch people adapt. Luckily, I had been teaching prior to COVID online, so had a little bit of experience, but it was interesting to see the transition. And for the fitness industry on a whole, I think it just accelerated an inevitable journey. We were going to come online more. It was going to be an offering that was going to exist more, and it just brought it straight to the surface. So almost every studio I've ever worked in now has an online offering, and I'm at Virgin now and we ourselves have an on-demand service, so you can train with us whenever you want.
Do you think that some of these changes that the pandemic has brought about in the way we behave, do you think we'll expect them to last tomorrow?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting what Charlotte was saying about that these kind of trends were already existed, but they've they've just accelerated. We know that from data that 33% of people are saying they're doing more exercise, and 23% say that they're eating healthier since the first lockdown. People are really hungry for knowledge, I think, about health and like how to do it proactively. And I think this thirst for knowledge and the fact that these trends already existed and have just been accelerated means that even when the vaccine comes, even if we're all desperate to get out and have a bit of fun and forget about health for just a millisecond, I'm pretty sure that this kind of understanding and caring about health and wellness is kind of here to stay really for the long term.
Absolutely. It's just, I think being indoors with yourself has forced everyone to think a little bit closer about what's important to them, firstly. And you've had to sort of face, I know it's been an anxious year for lots of people, they've had to face kind of themselves in a way. And it's kind of got everyone to go back to square one and think about, well, what is important? How do I want to fill my day to day? And if you can't go out and see your friends, well, what can I do to help myself, make myself feel good, feel better? What does that look like? And essentially, you know, I could go on about this forever, but, you know, movement and keeping fit, whatever you want to call it, a workout, that moving your body is something that's always going to be something that, you know, generates a good feeling within you. And no matter how that looks, that can be yoga, it can be weightlifting, it can be going for a walk, it doesn't really matter. But I think it's definitely brought that to the forefront of people's minds. If they didn't do it before, it's something that they're going to keep doing because it's evident that it makes them feel better.
David, if I can tear you away from the cocktail that she's just showed us how to make, what about the expectations for coffee shops or the bars or other parts of the hospitality sector? Should the industry, do you think, be given greater autonomy to make decisions around reopening them?
Yeah, look, I've been fairly outspoken in saying that I think a lot of the measures against hospitality were kind of disproportionately targeted against our sector. And I think if you look at the data, our sector did an incredibly good job of controlling the spread of the virus. You know, my business and many others, we spent a huge amount of money on additional staff and plastic screens and lots of other measures to keep people safe. And actually, you know, compared to some of the other environments, such as retail, supermarkets, even sports events at some point, which is actually a very uncontrolled environment. Hospitality, when we introduced some of the rules that we did, such as you've got to remain seated, only small parties, no service at the bar, it was incredibly controlled, actually, and incredibly safe. And I think it was quite unfair how we were targeted. I think this new variant has moved the needle a little bit on the whole discussion. That has changed things and has made things even more difficult. But what I'm hopeful is that there can be a really sensible conversation that says by the 1st of March, the vaccination has hit, all of the 80-year-olds, most of the 70-year-olds, and all the other at-risk categories. So now we need to give everyone, the whole population, a bit more autonomy in choosing their own kind of risk profile and how they want to behave. And that has to apply to businesses as well.
Did you notice a difference, though, in terms of protecting jobs and the sector re-emerging strongly between the first lockdown and the second lockdown after the reopenings?
We were able to bounce back really well. And actually, our trade bounced back better than I thought. People enjoyed particularly coming to us for brunch at the weekend. But I think it's important to note that the support provided was to protect jobs, but that still costs us money to keep those people furloughed, particularly if we're topping up. There was no support for paying our rent. There was no support for paying all of the many, many other overheads that come with running a business. I think it's a bit of a misnomer to think that businesses have been just completely supported throughout this whole period. They haven't. Every hospitality business has had to take on a ton of debt, eat through all of their cash.
Yeah. Well, the fashion industry is facing many challenges. Paul Smith said recently he'd never imagined having to withstand national lockdown and now is navigating the plans to abolish VAT-free shopping for non-EU visitors. Tell me how it's going to look like going forward.
what he says is right. This lockdown, the pandemic rather, has hit luxury hard. Its twin engines are retail and hospitality, and all of those have been kind of locked down, whether you're high street or high end. But added to that, there have been some legislative changes which are looking like they might inhibit our ability to really come shooting out of the starting gates of the recovery. Because what these brands want to do is to use their fame to help the whole country recover really, really fast. And VAT-res, it's also called tax-free shopping, is seen by the Chancellor as a perk for rich people. You get your tax back when you shop in this country. But actually what it is the retail export scheme, because if you buy something and then you go back home, you're 3 times more likely to buy that product when you get home in market, so it helps export. But also, that tax perk helps support sales, which supports jobs of those 160,000 people. So that's why it's important. It hasn't been abolished in Paris or Milan. Not having that makes us uncompetitive. The point is that these brands are resilient and they just really want to maximise the recovery and move on from the rather challenging times that we've been having.
Absolutely. Well, we also know, Helen, that luxury consumers are really changing their attitudes. How important are these new luxury buyers to luxury brands?
That's such an interesting question, because I do think the new buyers are in many ways very, very similar to the classic luxury buyer, but we call them Henry, so high earners, not yet rich. So they're kind of aspirational luxury. They're on a long journey. You often start, I don't know about you, you maybe fell in love with something beautiful when you were a child, and then maybe it was a Chanel handbag and you now own it. That it can be a long time before you own the product, but you love it for a long time beforehand. One of the things that's very significant about how that younger consumer is changing is about sustainability and purpose. It's not enough to be beautifully crafted or just to be beautiful or just to be a kind of gorgeous luxury thing. You absolutely have to be luxury with heart. If you haven't got a clean conscience, you're not luxury. So sustainability is as important to luxury as craftsmanship has always been, and that is the big step change.